as it relates to other philanthropies that are kind of moving in the impact and direct investment kind of direction, it seems to me that many of them that are doing, well, wanting to invest in individual enterprises, early stage entrepreneurial businesses, that they put money into third-party funds that are aligned with their objectives. They don't, and part of the reasoning is that their program team, their team doesn't have the expertise to do the kind of due diligence on this kind of business that they're used to doing, say, with nonprofit organizations. Does that point to what I was suggesting earlier? There's just some historical structural inadequacies, anachronisms, however you want to put it, that are keeping foundations and their program teams that generally are some of the most astute and knowledgeable about social and environmental challenges, because that's what they were hired to do. But they're losing out on being able to bring that directly to bear on the direct investments. Instead, they shop it out. Do you see that happening with other foundations, and how did you do it, and what advice do you have for others who could be bringing more of it in-house?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are constantly preaching from the rooftops about the program-related investment tool, and we think it's so underutilized, and it's incredibly important and useful to the space, especially for foundations. So we spend a lot of our time helping other foundations and family offices think about how to do it and how to build their team internally. It feels complicated on the front end, but once you sort of break it down for folks, I think it becomes a little bit easier. So that is just general knowledge of the tool, I think, is important. I think we often sort of like breeze past it. But the reality is like, how do we get more uptake with this tool? And then I found the biggest barrier to be legal teams, not investment committees. A little bit of a programs team issue, but for the most part, I found those folks have, to your point, Laurie, they have the expertise. They know the area, they know the solutions, they know it's scalable. So oftentimes what happens happening is you've got a pretty deep investment or programs team, and then you try to bring in legal, and that's where it breaks down. And so my number one advice is to work with a legal team who understands impact investing. And that removes time and money and barriers quicker than I've ever seen anything be removed. So that's one. And then I guess I would say from a governance perspective, we have a lot of folks on our investment committee who come from private equity. And so it's been a real learning journey for them to move into this sort of early stage venture brain and to also move into this, we think about impact first. And that journey, whether it's through governance or existing, whatever that infrastructure looks like, that is not something you can't undermine how long that process can take. I typically tell people just to get their feet wet, get in there and just do one. If you see a deal that comes across your desk and you think it's interesting, put it together, see how it goes, see where the barriers in your organization exist, because they're going to look different in every organization. And then you know what you need, and you can bring in an outside consultant to help through that. You can build the team internally. We run a really lean and mean team here. And I think the private equity guys are always like, I'm sorry, how many investment managers do you have on a portfolio that big? I think it's a bit shocking to them. But it can be done. But I think sort of the barriers, again, really kind of exist for us when we've seen sort of broad issues exist in the legal territory the most.
Does Sorensen Impact advise others? Do you have like a consulting business, or do you point people to other consultants who are good helping them with a specific.
Yeah, we do have an advisory platform in our group called Sorensen Impact Advisory, and that was set up for the sole purpose of moving more institutions, family offices, foundations into impact investing. And so they advise across the capital spectrum. They advise on the philanthropic side, catalytic capital, all the way up to the market rate side. And I think, maybe this is going beyond your question, but I will say part of the aha moment for our group that's been at this for a long time is that impact allocation or capital allocation is really important in each of those buckets I just talked about. Each of those buckets can solve a problem differently. And I think the impact investing space, and actually the wealth management, it sort of tips the wealth management industry on its head. It's sort of like, what is the problem you are trying to solve? And what is the capital that is best suited to solve that problem? And so I just sort of bring that up. But yes, we do have an advisory team that helps, because we agree. I mean, we really want to see folks doing more direct investments. Like the funds are great, and there are some good ones out there that we recommend. But I think where the real passion comes is when you find an entrepreneur who you sync together, you know that they can execute, they are deeply rooted to their mission and what they're doing, and you want to connect them to capital. That's when the magic of impact investing happens. And so we're always urging people to start looking at directs. And so, yes, happy to help anyone or point you to the right people on our team to get you there. And I think I will say as on the advisory side, we scratched our head for sometimes on should we be involved in helping families and institutions structure direct deals, because there's, all sorts of things that it's more complicated. And we have found it to be an incredibly enriching experience and to be a little bit more fluid than we had expected. So that's been a good outcome.